Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Balls Fantasy Football. It's Greg the Beast here in Week 10 of the NFL. I have two go hard and two go soft picks for you this week. First, let's talk about bye weeks. We, of course, are still dealing with bye week trouble here in fantasy. You have the Falcons. That means no Matt Ryan, no Julio Jones. You have the Colts. They're not playing this week. Andrew Luck is, of course, injured and going to be out 2 to 6 weeks. That's going to help him a little bit. You have the Chargers, who our Bears defeated this week. So exciting. We'll get to that in a moment. And then, of course, the Niners are having a bye week as well. No real loss there. No really great players to play on the Niners. But let me get to my first go hard pick this week. Carlos Williams, running back of the Bills, going up against the Jets this week. Last week, 9 rushes for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Dolphins. Now, he did this as a change of pace back because he was in and out, kind of mainly being played on third downs, and got these stats. Of course, LaShawn McCoy did go out with a shoulder injury. They say that he didn't need an MRI, and Rex Ryan is saying maybe he'll play, but when you have a major injury like that and there's a possibility you're going to have to go get it checked out by an MRI, you're probably going to be pretty limited the following week. So I would pick up Carlos Williams, get him up off the waiver wire. Most people weren't playing him last week, and he was on a lot of waiver wires this week. He was one of the top players to be picked up. So go and get him. I expect him to at least get a touchdown this week. Probably about 80 yards, but at least you could plug him in one of those spots to fill in for your bye week. My second go hard for you this week is Emmanuel Sanders over there on the Broncos. Now, I know I've been ripping Peyton Manning a new one this season and putting him in. It's a touch and go thing for the rest of the season. The offense seems to have finally gotten moving. The running game is still extremely suspect. All of you Ronnie Hillman people, me included, have been suffering. You don't know if C.J. Anderson or Ronnie Hillman's going to be the guy from week to week, and you don't even know if either of them are going to produce. The wide receivers have been going nuts on the Broncos. The Broncos are playing Kansas City this week, and the last time Emmanuel Sanders played them, he got 14 targets, 8 receptions, 87 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, Demaryius Thomas, he ended up getting 8 receptions himself and 116 yards. Hey, it's a twofer. I'm telling you because I have Emmanuel Sanders in most of my lineups to run with him. If you have Demaryius Thomas, get him in there also. I have him in a flex spot in one of my lineups. So these receivers really torched Kansas City secondary last time. I'd get him in this week. It's a really nice matchup. Either or, you're going to do well. Let's get on to my go softs. And one of the more disappointing quarterbacks this season, fantasy-wise, and we haven't talked about this a lot, is Russell Wilson over there on the Seahawks. Hasn't been putting up big fantasy numbers. Hasn't really, if you look at his stats, he has only gotten 20 points 2 times all season in Yahoo leagues. Now, we're talking that's PPR as well. So he hasn't been racking up fantasy points for anyone. And it's all because they brought in Jimmy Graham. Pete Carroll switched the offense. Jimmy Graham doesn't like to block. Why you would want to bring in a tight end that doesn't like to block, I don't know. But it's really stifled their offense. Russell Wilson's had to run around for his life, hasn't been getting a lot of passes off. Marshawn Lynch, if anybody, has been benefiting from this. I mean, it's just not the Super Bowl caliber offense that you've seen the last few seasons. And the defense has also been getting tripped up. The Seahawks just have a bad record, and they're just in disarray right now. I think they need to find themselves again. In the meantime, all of you that took Russell Wilson early in your drafts, not getting what you need out of him. I would stick him on the bench. Don't get rid of him, but definitely don't play him this week. This week, he is up against Arizona. tough, very tough defense up against quarterbacks. In fact, they give up the least points to quarterbacks fantasy-wise. Horrible matchup. Stick Wilson on the bench. Go out and get a Brian Hoyer or somebody as a backup. I see him sitting around a lot. And he's been getting between 30 and 40 fantasy points per week in PPR leagues. So he might be a better option. There's another freebie for you. So my final one in the Go Softs is Wes Welker. Yes, Wes Welker, welcome back to the NFL after we saw the videos of you taking care of your kids and you going, hey, get me back into the NFL. Well, the Rams are so dinged up at the wide receiver position, they decided, what the hell, let's get Wes Welker on our team. And boy, oh boy, I know I see, there were over 11,000 ads in Yahoo leagues of Wes Welker. Now, unless you are totally desperate, why you would take an untested, at least for this season, wide receiver in there, especially when you have Nick Foles, who, just like Russell Wilson, has been a fantasy disappointment. It's not a good offensive situation there. Todd Gurley and their running game, he is the star of the team, and the running game is the star that is getting all the fantasy points. The passing game has not been. I don't know how they think Wes Welker is going to jumpstart that, especially coming off rusty from taking care of his kids. So I don't know why you'd want to get Wes Welker in there. I would definitely, if you're adding him, keep him on the bench this week, see what he does. But he is definitely a go soft, especially because the Rams are playing the Bears this week. And the Bears have been doing pretty well in stopping wide receivers, and they've been stopping tight ends as well. So, except Antonio Gates. But Antonio Gates is Antonio Gates. Speaking of which, yes, Antonio Gates got some yards up against our Bears this week, but the Bears beat the Chargers this week at Qualcomm, which is probably going to be one of the last Monday Night Football games at Qualcomm Stadium. Sorry, Chargers fans. We are proof that you can't support your team. The Bears, we invaded. I mean, invaded San Diego Sunday and Monday, and it was just party time in the gas lamp. It was party time in Old Town where I stayed, and it was just wall-to-wall Bears fans as far as the eye could see. When you hit the stadium, that's all the tailgating was. So we have some footage for you of our Bears invasion. Of course, the Beauty and the Beast were there, Jenny and I, and let's go to the footage and show you how we went off at Qualcomm. Stay tuned.